All right. I made a video about my predictions of what was going to be valuable to farm early league, and I was right about some things and wrong about some others. But the video had a bit of a negative uh, tone behind it because I was very disappointed with the precursor systems. I absolutely hate trading in this game, and I didn't want to trade for those precursors. Since all the content is hyper negative around this game right now, I'm going to do my best to be positive, even though I do have my feelings about it. I think I have a way to where I don't have to trade for them, and I can also get the most value out of the farms that we have available to us. Very simply, I'm just going to run a tower. I'm going to put in one irradiated. I'm going to put in one breach with quantity preferably, but I don't have any right now. And like I said, I do not want to trade. So we'll go ahead and do this rarity with chance for additional breach, although that is 12 maps. I don't want to do that. We'll do rare monsters with 18 maps, and then we're going to do some expedition. And I actually found a pretty disgustingly good one. Explosive radius and quantity. This is about the best two rolls you could get, and we'll go ahead and apply that. And then over on this tower, we're going to do the same thing. Over on this tower, we're going to do the same thing. I'm not going to waste a bunch of time pathing to them first. It just takes too much time. I'm going to throw it in here. When I get over to this one, then I'll throw in the same set of tablets. I'm officially naming this strategy the double pronged attack. Once we can get ritual in, then it will be the triple pronged attack. And the more things you can get in, the better. This is you right here. You're very happy. The more league mechanics you can get into one map, you're even happier. All right, now I know I said in my last video that I made that I was going to play Spectres and try out the new Lich Ascendancy. However, I sort of foresaw what was going to happen with this league when they started releasing information about it. I saw that movement speed was going to be king, and I saw that basically the only way to get movement speed was to play a dexterity character. In my opinion, you cannot play any other character in this league right now, unless, if you want to farm efficiently, that is, unless you're playing on the dexterity side, and that's simply because of movement speed. And this is also the reason why we are playing two league mechanics, right? The majority of your time is spent right now getting through the map and killing all of the rare monsters. And with how grim the map sustain is in this game right now, you have to kill all the rare monsters, and basically you have to kill the boss every time you find it. The days of, you know, having a couple of maps connected together, just running in, doing the league mechanic, and then jumping out if you didn't need to finish the map to progress, those days are over. You are not dropping nearly enough waystones. And so if you want to be able to roll good tier wavestones with quantity and rarity, and gold not so much anymore, I don't think, but rare monsters and, you know, all the other beneficial mods you can get on wavestones to help boost your loot a little bit, then you have to be completing these maps to kill the final rare monster, so he's dropping you another tier 15 so you can run another map. My thought process behind running the two mechanics is it basically takes, you know, 30 to 45 seconds to run these mechanics, but it takes sometimes like 5 minutes to clear an entire map. So it would be very beneficial to put as many league mechanics on one map as we possibly can. This way you are, you know, essentially doubling the currency output that you get from each map for, you know, essentially no time at all. You know, 30 extra seconds or whatever per map to double your output. Both Expedition and Breach are very good. I think Ritual is also good, although I think the economy needs a little bit of time to recover from the exploit that was used a couple of days ago. So for the meantime, I'm staying away from that one. Ideally, in the future, moving forward, I would like to incorporate all three, right? Like if you get Expedition, Breach, and Ritual all in one map, that would be ideal. However, the only problem with that is in order for Ritual to be super effective, you need to be running it on eye level 80 maps, and so it's going to be a little tricky to get all of Expedition, Breach, and Ritual plus irradiated or to be able to find a situation where, you know, it naturally spawns, or sometimes you'll get +1 level from these cleansed areas. But again, it's just a little too hit or miss for me, so I'll work on that moving forward. But what I will say about these cleansed areas is sometimes you get things like this, right, where you get 100% increased rarity on some of them. Sometimes it'll be gold too. I know I went really deep into the gold before and how it converts up into currency, how Slippery Jim figured that out, and then I did a bunch of testing that I have in a previous video where if you have enough rarity, then gold will convert up into currency, right? I did a hyper efficient test on gold conversion in a previous video. As you can see by your screen, gold into PIIR. However, I don't think it's really going to work this league, and the biggest reason is because we lose the rare monster modifier. So This is one of, where you used to get every rare monster has one additional modifier. We lose that. It's very big. It's massive. It's one of the biggest reasons you're not seeing that much currency this league. Essentially, it's just unfortunately nerfed into the ground. That in combination with the rarity, looks like the cap is a little lower than it was. So all in all, there's just not nearly as much rarity that's converting the currency up this league. And aside from that, you also are like getting half as much because you can't put that much quantity on your precursors. And because of all these reasons, I don't think there's enough rarity for the gold to really convert up into currency in a meaningful way. So I don't think it's that valuable anymore. But as of right now, the black scythes are 4 to 1 exalt. The exotic coins, which you also find a handful of if you type it right, are they're about 1.5 to 1. And then the logbooks, if you go to the Forbidden Trove Discord, they're selling for about 10 exalts a piece. Now, obviously, these are very low prices, but that's just kind of the state of the league, right? When everything is shit, well, then everything is good because everything is shit. So everyone's making the same amount. Items stay low in cost. No, nobody's finding anything. I'm not finding anything. No one's finding anything except for the ritual exploiters. But because of that, almost everything is very cheap to get. Um, I know you see me trading Wisdom Scrolls here. I did this lastly when I showed up very late and was very behind the curve. I came to the end game like 2 weeks late, and I made something like 15 divines off of Wisdom Scrolls before uh, I even hit like tier 8 maps last league. They are very good to trade if the prices stay the same, although it looks like the bottom end is coming up a little bit. But you can basically double your money on them, and the gold cost is minuscule compared to some other flipping methods. But it is one of the more tedious ones, and I probably won't do it for long. However, if you are really struggling to make some currency, then it is a little bit of side currency you can make for a very low gold cost. So long as this video doesn't get that many views and the prices stay somewhat like the same. During the night, these will drop, and you should get about 2x to 3x your value. But anyways, ideally, I obviously want to get into the expedition stuff. I think these first 2 nodes are your biggest priority, and then I will probably go into these nodes after because they are a lot easier to run than these ones here. So likely what I'll do is I'll do these first 2, and then with my third ascendant or third Atlas passives, I'll go into this one here, and then once I get my 4th one, I'll spec out of this one and then go into these 4. For this over here, I think really all you're making off of Breach is splinters with the occasional catalyst, but you're certainly not finding divines. You're not really finding exalts. Splinters are really where it's at. So we're going to take breach splinters. I'm going to take a monster density, and then with my 3rd point, I'm going to go into more clasped hands just for some more splinters. And this is just this is what I got going on. I didn't really think it out too much. I will say this node kind of sucks. I ideally would like for my precursors to be dropping as a normal tier so that you can use the omen that gives you 3 prefixes when you use an alchemy on it, but I don't have enough points. I'm only tier 12, and I got tired of farming the tiers. I got to another one, and then I died on the boss, and it fucking reset my whole map on the Corrupted Nexus map, and so I wasn't able to do it, and I was just exhausted. But with that being said, the way that you find these nexuses is just to go straight. Just pick a direction and go straight, right? I think I started like over in this area here, and then you just go straight. Ignore towers, ignore everything. Just as you can see from the green maps, just bam, straight line. Eventually you find the nexus, kill the nexus, back to a straight line. Looks like I think I find another one there. Straight line, find another one there, and then straight line, and then that's how you get to the most nexuses to get your initial points. I don't think you really need all of them. Obviously, if you can't get all of them, that's great. But I think I got most of the core stuff that I want for the moment. As predicted, the wisps are bait. I didn't even talk about the rogue exiles. I knew what they were going to be. Maybe like 1 in 100 you find a decent unique. I have no idea. I'm not willing to test them. I think they're garbage. I kind of assumed they were going to be garbage. I think finding a good unique from them is going to be hyper rare and not worth the investment or the time. I did try a little bit of strong boxes. I actually ran strong boxes as I was progressing my Atlas. The researchers ones are okay. They drop you some stuff here and there. If you find the unique one, it can be pretty decent, although it eats pretty much all of your gold. But I did find several divines off of them. Not raw divines, but level 20 skill gems and perfect jewelers and shit like that. But that's about all I have with the strategy for now. As you can see, You know, sometimes your rituals are going to fall on the irradiated tablets you put in. Normally, you don't really care. You're just looking for the quantity off of the irradiated tablet. But if you can get more maps having irradiated tablets, then you might be able to boost up your chances that it actually hits some of these several spawning natural rituals to give you even more currency per map. Now, with all of that being said, I will go into my build in case you're curious about it. It's going to be a very quick run through. I'm starting work. I don't have much time for videos as I used to, but I have some general tips for all builds, and then I'll talk a bit about this one real quick and give you kind of a rough guideline if you want to play it yourself. All right, but before I do, if you could give the video a like, it would be appreciated. I don't do any of the funny tricks to grow viewership, like put out a bunch of, pre-league videos and all this stuff and then stream all the time. I'm really not in it for the money. I'm just in it for the love of the game. I like sharing content with people and making sure that they have a good time playing the league. But it is pretty discouraging when your video gets a bunch of views and then like no one gives it a like, and so therefore the algorithm doesn't pick it up and no one else gets to see it, and it kind of makes it hard to want to continue to make videos. If I'm not getting any financial gain or love from the community, then what's the point? Take half a second, give it a fucking like. I know your wrists are healthy, you're not picking up any loot, so one extra click please. All right, the biggest thing you can do for your character for survivability is instant recovery life flask. Let me give you an example. All right, now if you watch my health pool, I'm doing this ritual, I'm not really paying much attention, and I end up getting knocked off my mount. And if you watch, I just start chugging my life flask, and I do this every time I get knocked off. Then I never really die. The only exception is if there's a bunch of chaos vomit on the ground, since I don't have any chaos resistance really. Um, then sometimes I will catch a death there. The other option is you can press escape and log out, and you'll come back in, and you won't be heavy stunned anymore. But it takes a lot of time. I don't really like to do that. I think you just run the instant recovery flask. It's going to save you so many times. Now I'll talk a little bit about this build and some of the decisions I made. I'm just going to go over things very quickly. I come out of this side of the tree for the movement speed. Movement speed, you have to take it everywhere you can get it. Like I said earlier, the time it takes you to get through the map is like the majority of your time. So this is essentially like 4% more loot. You have to kind of think of it like that. Like the faster you can get around, the more loot you get, the faster you can complete maps. Each percent of movement speed is, 1% of movement speed is essentially like 1% more loot, is kind of my thought process behind it. Since we are running an instant flask, 552 life is not that much. So getting an extra 30% from these nodes, I think, is beneficial. And then, evasion is king for staying alive. However, you could not do this evasion here, and then you could go across and then path up through the damage nodes if you're struggling for damage. And if you're really struggling for damage, then you can come out this side and pick up, projectile damage and skip this whole side entirely. Now this build is very easy to get up and running. I'll talk about the strengths and the weaknesses real quick. I was able to kill Zesh 3 fairly easily. The only problem I had was mana with it, so I'm a little concerned about doing the fourth tier. But basically what I found out is most of your damage comes from the poison being stacked up. So I would fire a bunch of shots to get 10 poison stacks, and then I would just hang out for a couple of seconds, let those tick for a while, and then I would reapply, and that was how I was able to beat him without running into a mana issue and running out of my mana flask like what happened to me the first attempt. This bow has been a currency sink. I've spent like 40 divines on it, rerolling the prefixes, trying to get fizz damage. It was supposed to be just like a low mid-range fucking bow, and then I hit +4 proj and bow attacks fire 2 additional arrows, and now I'm locked into spending all my currency on it. And hitting high tier fizz damage is like impossible. It's so fucking hard. I shouldn't have fractured fizz damage, but whatever. It looks like a really nice bow. The the plus arrows does absolutely nothing for your damage. All it does is help with clear. You do not need to get this. The +4 projectiles I found out is roughly about equal to 25 DPS. +1 projectile is about plus 25 DPS in the bow, give or take a few points. So if you're looking for a cheaper end of this, like I think you could clear endgame up to Zesh 3 with like a couple of divine, right? All you really need are snake bites and preferably a higher physical damage bow than this with some projectile skills, like a 400 with like 2 projectile skills or something like that would be plenty, I think, to clear up to Zesh 3. All right, this is the bow I was running for most of the game. Just no attack speed, 345 at the top end of the fizz damage with +3 prod. Just is a great bow. You could probably pick up something like this for a divine, I would imagine. Or at least I was able to. 2 divine. Okay, so for 2 divine, cap your resists, pick up some snake bites, and you can clear tier 15s. Now, I do really recommend that you try to find some plus projectiles. It's going to help your clear tremendously, but that is all that it is doing. It does not increase your damage at all. Your damage is poison based and not so much hit based. A couple of things I've tried. I tried to go into 50% less movement speed penalty with the movement speed penalty from here, and also the movement speed penalty support gem. And you can basically attack at like 90 to 95% of the rate you can move, especially if you anoint this, then you're almost like not even slowed from attacking. So you basically get Rhoa without having to use the Rhoa. Um, but I do still notice the speed slow, and also you can't anoint this here, which is very, very big. So I didn't want to go that route. Also, you have to give up the +6 passive points, which is ends up being a ton of damage. But that is another option if you're curious about trying that, although I don't think it is as good. I don't think the life flask is very good. I tried this for a while. Unfortunately, the best flask is like 3 seconds long. If you go the tier below that, it's 4 seconds long. It just doesn't really give you a lot of time on your flask effect. And overall, I just think the instant recovery is just too damn strong. You can't give it up. Here's a brief overview of the tree real quick. Show you the top side here. I rushed this when going through the campaign, although I'll talk about that in a minute. And then this right here, and you pick up this so you can get projectile speed on your quiver and get a little bit more damage. And then I'm just picking up movement speed everywhere I can, as well as physical damage to scale the poisons, picking up all the poison nodes. You do need some accuracy. I thought that the poison arrow would just explode if it missed, but it actually goes through them, so you do need a little bit of accuracy, but not that much. As long as you can mostly apply or mostly hit, then you're going to get your 10 poison stacks, and you're not going to have too many issues on your jewels here. You're just looking for projectile damage, projectile speed, magnitude of poisons, that kind of stuff. I'm just kind of winging this build as I go. I had so many other plans for it, but then everything got nerfed into the ground 2 minutes before I started. I initially wanted to go Queen of the Forest and Corpse Weight and all this other shit, and then I was like, okay, well maybe I'll go Gas Arrow, and then that got cut down by like 90 fucking percent. So this is where we're at. I also thought that I could go into these Chaos Wheels to get more damage, but you can't actually do that. Even though this says that it is a Chaos skill, scaling Chaos damage does not do anything. However, reducing their Chaos resistance does. Very confusing, but it does work that way. I started noticing when I would run into chaos resistant monsters that they were taking twice as long to kill, and I was like, well, how the fuck does that make sense if I'm not able to scale my damage through this? But it turns out there's some weird stuff going on. Basically, if you reduce their chaos resistance, you do more damage, but if you increase your own chaos damage, you don't do more damage. Very weird. But because of that, we run Despair, and I also run Withering Presence. This is the only way that I can effectively get withered onto a target. And with this setup here, running a level 10 or level 9 gem for the reduced intellect cost, I'm able to get them to around 30 to 35% withered, which is pretty good. I run increased duration, and I run chaos mastery. Your other option, if you want to increase clear, is to run Plague Bearer. This is also very good for just spreading your chaos damage across the screen. But as your build gets better, you want to eventually get out of that. And then the other option would be Wind Dancer for more survivability. This is very good too for getting you like an extra 10% evasion or something like that. But again, as your gear gets better and you're able to scale into more evasion, you don't really need this so much. But ideally, I would like to get more spirit and put it back on. And then obviously you have your Rhoa Mount. I'm just running clarity on it, loyalty, elemental army. I didn't put much thought into this. The bread and butter skill, we've got Poison Arrow, we have Heft, we have Deadly Poison, we have Martial Tempo, Bursting Plague, and Comorbidity. When I go to kill a boss, I just swap these two out here. Deliberation and Corrosion. The armor break is very strong. It doesn't scale your poison damage directly, but it makes it so your poison arrow will hit harder. So when the armor breaks, which happens very quickly, you start to hit harder, which then makes your poisons tick harder. And then you don't really need the attack speed, or I'm sorry, you don't have to worry about your movement speed because you're on the Rhoa. So this is just of 20% more damage. Very good. And then yeah, Martial Tempo just for clear speed and Bursting Plague. Whenever like a rare is surrounded by a bunch of enemies and they die, they'll burst out, essentially putting like 30 poisons on the rare monster, essentially, because each of your 10 poisons is scaled up by 200%. So it's very strong, while mapping. But that's really all there is to it. A big evasion chest, keeps you alive. Evasion's king for staying alive. Get a bunch of life, get a bunch of resistances, and then as much rarity as you can get. I'm running about 115% rarity, and then a golden charm on top of it. My gear is pretty underwhelming. Almost all my currency's gone into my bow. This was an insane quiver actually, but you don't need something this crazy. I was able to pick this up for like 9 divines, and I couldn't resist. It's just too damn good. But I wasn't running anything close to this good. I think I had like a 5 exalt bow, and that took me to like tier 15s. So you definitely don't need that. Um, yeah, I mean, a couple of divine and you can get to tier 15s with this build. So the weakness of the build is that I think it's going to struggle with boss damage a little bit. I'm probably going to have a bit of a hard time killing the tier 4 bosses. Not because I don't have the damage. I do have the damage. I don't have the mana. So my mana flask runs out, I think, likely before I'll be able to kill it, but I haven't tried it yet. I think maybe reducing my projectile skills would help that a lot. Like if I went with a much higher DPS, physical DPS bow, but much lower projectile skills, that will probably be the key to my success there. And then the other weakness with the build is the leveling through the campaign. This build is horrible to level. It does not feel good until you hit Act 3 and you can pick up double the number of poisons. It might be better now with the 25% lower life, but man, I had one hell of a time getting to Act 3. I did not enjoy it, so I do not recommend playing poisons until you can pick up this ascendancy. I also tried Poison's Concoction. This shit is a complete fucking waste. It does tons of damage. It's really great. The only problem is after a third of the boss's health is gone, so is your mana flask, and you're left there just auto attacking. It's horrible. You can't use it. It's worthless. But that's all I got for now. I'm pretty much just trying to farm some stuff up and work on this bow. This bow is cursed. I used a whittling on it to remove the gain 4 mana, and it replaced it with gain 4 mana. Like, I don't even think it removed it at all, and now it wants to take the +4 proj, even though the whittling is supposed to remove the +4 mana. I think I bugged my bow out. I have to write support to fix it, because I really want a chance to hit attack speed on it, or maybe even crit chance. But this thing is fucking cursed, dude. I've sunk so much currency into this, and it's really halting my build. My initial plan is just to get like a cheap mid-tier bow, and then I hit +4/+2, and I was like, well, fuck, now I gotta really craft it. And dude, it's killing me. But yeah, that's about all. I stream occasionally. If you have questions, you're always welcome to hop in and ask me whatever. But I think that's all I got for now. If you're looking to compare tooltips, uh, this is the damage I'm sitting at. It puts my poisons around this right here. So we're looking at around, with 10 stacks of poison, 89,000 poison damage. Nothing insane for single target, but the clear is very nice. And once I actually get a better or finish this bow, it'll be even more insane. But this is how I was able to kill tier 3 Zesht. If you're looking for sort of a benchmark, tier 1 and 2 were very easy. You could do it with like fucking any bow, to be honest, as long as you can dodge mechanics. But yeah, that's all. Good luck to you if you decide to play it. Oh, and last thing, unaffected by slows. The reason I'm taking this is simply for temporal chains and ice. And for a while there, it was working for temporal bubble too, but after a patch, it stopped working. I don't know if intended or not, but it should be working for temporal bubble, although it's not anymore. But with the limited maps, I don't want to be throwing away temporal chains and ground ice maps. So I'm running this, and it's very, very nice when you run into those. You do not get slowed by that curse. I know it says it's 15% for temporal chains. I think it's a damn lie, dude. It feels like you get slowed by like 100% by that thing. So very nice to have. And yeah, I guess the only other option is you could do like immunity to freeze or ignite or shock, but I don't ever really have these happen to me. Maybe shock, but yeah, that's all.